Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. Today I'm reviewing Happytime Murders. This was directed by Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son, and stars Melissa McCarthy, Bill Barrett, Elizabeth Banks, Maya Rudolph, and Joel McHale. And it is the story of a world where puppets and human beings live together. The puppets aren't treated real well, but they live in the same world and same environment as the humans do. And it really looks at Phil Phillips, played by Bill Barrett, a disgraced cop turned private eye. And it's really about him sort of trying to survive within this, making ends meet, taking on particular cases he's not really happy about, but just wants to sort of try and make money. And it really follows him on one particular case where it leads him to a particular place where a group of puppets were murdered. And then it turns out his old lieutenant and his previous partner, Connie Edwards, played by Melissa McCarthy, have to join together and work out what's going on and try and solve these particular murders that are unfolding together. They have a turbulent relationship, something from their past that's explained throughout the film. They struggle with each other and aren't really friendly towards each other, but they put those things aside in order to try and solve this case. A particular 80s TV show called Happytime, where it had humans and puppets working together on this particular show. Each cast member is slowly killed one by one, and it's about them trying to stop this from happening and work out what's going on and who is the murderer of these particular people and why they're killing these people from this TV show. So Phil Phillips ultimately takes on the case with his ex-partner Connie Edwards, and they work together to try and solve these crimes and try and work out who the killer is and why this is transpiring the way it is. There's a lot of twists and turns along the way, and it feels like a sort of a noir private detective film in a lot of ways, and there's particular things that transpire in it that remind me of those sort of movies. Look, I kind of liked this film. It wasn't great, but I liked elements to it. I really liked the idea of like the private detective sort of stuff, and it sort of had a 50s feel with that, where Phil Phillips is the private detective, and then he has a secretary assistant called Bubbles, played by Maya Rudolph. And she's sort of dressed in that sort of vein, with particular clothes that remind me of that sort of era. And there's a lot of things within that. There's a voiceover that he tells the story through, the way his office is set up and the particular cases he takes and the people that interact with him in his life is very of that era, I guess you could say. Look, I think Brian Henson has created a really great sort of film. It's very clever, it's humorous and actiony, but it's also, pushing boundaries a lot of ways. There's particular things that are said, particular scenes that push the boundaries of what we've known as muppets and puppets and that sort of arena, and pushes it to real adult sort of based storylines and scenes that transpire. And there are a couple of really disturbing scenes. One I won't go into, but ultimately all I'm going to say about it is it involves an octopus and a cow, and it's quite disturbing, that whole sequence. I think everybody does a really great job here. Melissa McCarthy's really good. It's the best I've seen her in quite a while, and she's really impressive in this sort of role. And Bill Barrett, I don't know much of him except for being a puppeteer, I guess, and a bit of an actor as well. And he plays Phil Phillips really well, and I'm really impressed with what he does. And he sort of the voice suits the character and the environment, and it's very well done. I think Maya Rudolph is really good as Bubbles. I think she does really well and just creates a really funny and interesting character. And there's a variety of other puppeteers within it that do a really great job as well. There's a really great scene at the end during the credits, which shows you how they're able to make these puppets walk and talk and interact with the human characters. And it's very, very clever to see and very interesting to watch. And the comedy that comes from these puppeteers is quite extraordinary and quite funny. And it is pushing boundaries with particular things, and it's very adult based. It's definitely not for kids. And they push certain things pretty far, but I just felt they didn't push it as far as they could have. For a film like this, maybe not going into the realm of something like Sausage Party, but they could really sort of push certain aspects and scenes and dialogue and particular things that transpire in it a bit further than they did. Like I said, it's not the greatest film ever made, but I did kind of like it. It was entertaining, it was fun, it was very funny. Criticisms I would have for it are mainly that a lot of the jokes, the good jokes, are within the trailer, and I think that they put too many of the good jokes in the trailer, so when you're watching the movie, you knew those jokes were coming up and they weren't as funny as they were when you first saw them. And like I said, they could have pushed things a little further than they did. But I felt it was still an interesting film and sort of pushed things in a different direction. Brian Henson really outdid himself, I think, with this. The look and feel of it, what he was able to do with the puppets, the bit of the storyline he had going, the interesting characters he had transpiring within it, and just the way he was able to use puppets in the way he did, in such a uniquely different way to his father, Jim Henson, did with Sesame Street and the Muppets. I think that he's sort of just taking things in a different direction, and I kind of like that. It's sort of refreshing and interesting. And with Brian Henson being in charge, he is doing something different than what his father did, and I think that's kind of really cool and very interesting. Final verdict. Look, I felt this film was funny and interesting and very well done. It's not fantastic, but it is a solid film to watch, and I did enjoy myself throughout it, and I found myself laughing quite a bit throughout the film as well. I don't know if